Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky, and the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And I'm joined by Vishal. Vishal, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. Big fan of what you
Sure.
guys have done in the past, so I'm excited to be here. I'm Vishal Vish. I go by Vish, CEO and
Vish.
co-founder of SoWork.
Mhm.
So we build virtual workplaces for teams, and we do a few things to help teams feel more connected and more productive. So and we can get into that in the show, but one of the things
Mhm.
I'm really excited about lately is we've been building these bots that kind of you can deploy into people's virtual workplaces and help them do their work in a more productive way.
Mhm.
Um, then separately, I'm an emergency doctor, and so I do
Mhm.
a month or two of medicine each year.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about this virtual workspace. Now, what do you find to be just generally the benefits? Like, why would somebody who is doing remote work or hybrid work want a virtual office space?
hmm Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like you it seems like a new thing to some people.
Mhm.
But there's a few reasons that we consistently see customers and people who are kind of just trying it out. There's a few reasons we see them want to try this out, and it's because
Mhm.
when remote work hit and when the pandemic hit and teams kind of all had to go remote, we started to feel disconnected in ways that we haven't really felt
Mhm.
disconnected before. And so to give you kind of the founding story, because this is how it all happened. It happened to my team. My team was on campus at Harvard building a totally different type of software initially. This is before the pandemic hit.
Mhm.
And we were building a machine learning for education. That was kind of our prior software.
Mhm.
And picked everybody off campus, March 2020. Something
Yeah.
happened then. I don't know if you remember, but
Mhm.
I don't know what it was. But anyway, Harvard kicked us all off campus, and we were all kind of spread out all over Boston. And it was fine for a little while. We used Slack and we used Zoom, and
Mhm.
it was okay. But over time, the team that I'd worked so hard to kind of build and connect with, we started feeling like we were drifting apart. And
Mhm.
so that wasn't really the type of team or the type of company that I set out to build. I wanted to build
Mhm.
something that was really well connected because I think, building a startup or building a company is really it's supposed to be a journey where you build it with people that you care about
Mhm.
um, and you have like, a great outcome together for your customers
Sure.
as well as, for the team who's working so hard on it day in, day out. But what happened, and this happened to thousands, millions, maybe, I don't actually know, but at least hundreds of thousands of teams around the world when the pandemic hit, they started to feel like super disconnected from their workplaces.
Mhm.
There was a problem
Mhm.
introduced, by the distance, and it wasn't solved by Slack and Teams and Zoom and softwares like that. So I kind of racked my brain for months for the times in my life that I felt the most connected to people despite being across long distances.
Mhm.
And one memory kept coming back to me over and over, and that was when I used to play World of Warcraft when I
Mhm.
was like 18 years old. And
Mhm.
have you played that
Sure.
game? Are you familiar with World of Warcraft?
Yeah.
Yeah, super nerdy, I know. But we did some soul searching and kind of asked ourselves, well, why did we feel so connected? I met my current CTO playing World of Warcraft. I met one of
Ah.
our investors. I met one of our product people and one of our
Mhm.
designers playing World of Warcraft. So what was it about that? And so we decided to kind of go out on a limb and try to replicate some of the things that we felt and experienced in the user experience of that game, but apply it to
Create.
our
You want to create your own guild?
Exactly, right? The guild being our startup. And so
Mhm.
we built it and we built a little prototype. And within weeks we were just transformed as a team because we were able to
Mhm.
come together again. It wasn't Slack or Zoom where things are async and you have to schedule things all the time. Instead, we were able to come together as a team despite being across distances. And so instantly, almost, the culture of our team started returning to what we were trying to build in the first place.
Mhm.
And when we started to tell our peers about it, the different cohorts we were all in at Harvard, they all wanted to try it for their teams as well. Hey, can we get like
Mhm.
our own guild, our own workspace, our own sort of game world for us to work together in? And what we saw was that they were able to make decisions much faster on a day-to-day basis. They were able to remove wasted time from their calendars. They were able to feel much more connected as a team. All the things that you need to help your team thrive, especially in market conditions like we have today, right? So anyway, that was kind of the initial how and the why of why it happened, and how we started to build SoWork. And since then, we've just seen that replicated over and over through the last couple of years.
Now, I know that there are several other companies in the virtual workspace, the virtual office space. What makes SoWork unique compared and different compared to the other companies in the space?
Yeah, and it's a great question. There's a few things. There's, I guess, one of the biggest ones is our raison d'etre, like our reason for even being a company, why we build what we build. And I think that's really, when it comes down to it, one of the most fundamental differences or core differences that you can have between companies that maybe predict how the company will do, and how the company will, more importantly, solve the user problem, right? Because if you're not solving a customer problem, then you're not going to do well in the long term, sometimes in the short term. So, some of our competitors were created to host birthday parties, or, like baby showers and things like that. And that's fine. Some of our competitors were founded for events, and like other types of events, conferences, etc. And that's fine too. What we were founded for is specifically workplace. It's in our name. SoWork actually means social online work. SoWork. And so we were founded to solve problems that remote teams and distributed teams, hybrid teams would have when trying to, not necessarily only rekindle, but rekindle the benefits of being in a physical office when they were together, but also stepping it up to the next level and saying, okay, well, now that the office is digital and not just physical, what can we do? Like, imagine how you can supercharge what happens in a workplace if you do that. And so lots of examples I can give you about what we're able to do for teams, but that's kind of it in a nutshell. Or that's one of the main reasons about why we're different, and that kind of leads into all of the implementation sort of execution reasons we're different.
Now, I work with a number of companies to help them figure out their return to office strategy, to figure out the remote work strategy, hybrid work strategy. And I do tell them about virtual offices. And a number of companies are reluctant to try them because they feel it's just going to be an extra tool that they have to learn, and they don't want to click their avatars and make them move around, and they feel it's kind of like a little bit hokey. What do you do to get over this resistance? Like, what have you found useful when you are trying to convince leaders to even try a virtual office?
I would say, and this maybe comes from my medical training, is that it's hard to convince somebody of something if they don't think they have a problem, And so if they don't think they have a problem, we're not really in the business of convincing. Instead, we're happy to be there for the people who know what a big existential problem, actually, if you look at a long enough time horizon, this could be for their company, i.e. the problems with their employees being checked out, the benefits that they're missing out on that could be had with something that connects their team in a way that helps them be more productive. Everybody's kind of after a better bottom line, and there's just softwares out there that are new since the pandemic hit, ours being one of them, that leaders don't necessarily all know about yet. And so the way I think about it is, this is just another example of crossing the chasm, where you've got the early adopters and they understand the problem and you'll resonate with them, and that's great. What's going to happen is they're going to see such a big benefit to virtual workplaces. And maybe you could read our G2 reviews, or you could, look up, how people feel about really good virtual offices, see the benefits for yourself. Maybe the audience or who's listening, you can also look that up, and kind of you'll see, or you can try it out for yourself. But the people who are kind of after the chasm in that graph, the crossing the chasm graph, they will eventually see, oh my gosh, like maybe they're onto something. and wow, this is how it will affect my business. And oh my gosh, like how could we possibly do without this? Because look at all the benefits that we get that are different from the physical office that we could never get in real life. So there's actually only one way to run a company in 2023 and beyond, which is having a really useful virtual office that can help to just fundamentally change how your team works.
And you said at the beginning of the show that you're introducing generative AI into how SoWork functions. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're seeing as the benefits of doing so?
Yeah, sure. So our kind of AI plan. So again, my team's background is in AI, particularly machine learning, natural language, computer vision. The company that we were building before SoWork was, pretty hardcore deep tech machine learning company, and so it's been kind of our pleasure to take the learnings that we've had for the last several years and apply them to solve real business problems in the workplace space, the future of work space. So the way that I like to think about conceptually our AI strategy is in kind of three phases. So one phase is actually, sorry, let me go back a step. Three phases, yes, but the goal overall is to say, okay, well, how do we help teams be more productive and more connected to each other? Because it's not just about squeezing productivity out of people. I think that's like a terrible way to think about or run a company if that's all you're thinking. You know what I mean? Like if that's a byproduct of running a really nice, healthy team, then awesome. Totally you should do that. And so the first kind of phase, and like I said, the three phases, is can we do really simple things like summarize meetings for people so nobody has to do that work? Can we generate action items for people so that nobody has to do that work? And then auto export all those action items to Asana or to Jira or wherever people are doing their task management. So great. Every meeting that happens in a SoWork office now, you toggle it on, but every meeting that happens in a SoWork space, you'll get your summary, you'll get all your action items for each person on the team, and then those can get auto-ticketed to the right people in your task management software. Nobody has to do that job, and all the people are on the same page at the end of that meeting. What that then creates is a repo of basically every meeting that's happened in your office and all the people who have access or authorized access to look at all of that gets to go and look at the codex of your meeting library. That could be the admins, that could be all your teammates if you're a super open, transparent team. So everybody can see a record of everything that's happened, all the meetings. Like you can't do that in a physical office. That's just one of the things, right? And so what that does is leads into phase two of the three phases, which is you can now ask a bot. You can name your bot. You can put your company logo on it. You can make it humanoid. You can make it a bear. You can make it whatever it is that you want to make it. But a bot that's in your office that you can just ask natural language questions to. You can say, hey, ours in our office, her name is Sophia. So Sophia means wisdom in Greek. So you can say, hey, Sophia, what work is being shipped this week? And then she'll say, oh, well, based on all these meetings and all this work and the stuff that happened in GitHub and the stuff that happened in Asana and the stuff that happened in Notion and etc., these things are all getting shipped. These ones are behind. Okay, that's great. Hey, Sophia, what's like, are we going to make our revenue projections for Q1 2024? Well, based on the sales that are coming in Salesforce and based on this and that and these meetings, yeah, we're actually going to make them. But we're, I don't know, we're lagging behind for Q2 based on the projections that you talked about in this town hall 3 months ago or whatever. So you're able to ask these natural language questions that's how people interact and that's how people want their information sort of gotten and given. And so that's phase two. And then phase three, we can't really talk about it yet, but what I will say about it is that there's a lot of existential dread, let me call it that, by the average employee in many professions, that they're going to lose their job because of AI, or that their hours are going to be cut because of AI. And what we have figured out is a way to help to ensure that these folks become a part of that AI future and can take a piece of ownership, a piece of earnings. Let's see, how do I walk the line here? I guess the way I can sum it up is phase three is about helping folks who may feel like they're at risk participate in the economy of AI that will displace a lot of people.
Okay, sounds exciting. Now, as we finish up the interview, what do you think will be the future of remote work, including this use of generative AI, and how will SoWork be a part of the future of remote work?
Yeah, I think the future of remote work is really interesting. It's
Mhm.
not something that started with the pandemic, right? And I think probably
Mhm.
readers, sorry,
Sure.
listeners of your show know that, this happened, remote work has been a thing for decades.
Sure.
And then pandemic happened, it got super accelerated, and we haven't come back to previous. The
Mhm.
slope has been permanently increased in terms
Yeah.
of companies that are thinking about it, particularly in this kind of market, economic market, where more and more companies are opting to never even think about having a physical office because they'd
Mhm.
rather save that money and spend it on staff or
Yep.
marketing or growth or whatever it happens to be. It just makes a ton of sense, and we're seeing that too. The the way that we think about the future of remote work is it's going to continue. The slope is going to still
Mhm.
increase, and companies who don't kind of adapt and say, okay, maybe physical only isn't the way, we think they're going to be left behind, and
Mhm.
for a number of reasons. Maybe like the quick sort of cliff notes about why we think that is because the types of people who help to push companies forward, you kind of need a blend of people. You need the creatives,
Mhm.
you need the guardians, you need the stalwarts, you need a whole range of personalities to push any company forward. But what we see, and this is kind of there's a study, gosh, I can't remember who did I can maybe send it to you after the show, but showed that people who have a more creative or flexible outlook to life are more likely to choose remote
Mhm.
as their way that they work. And so if any creative, a lot of these are engineers, a lot of these are designers, a lot of these are artists, etc. These are crucial people for any functioning business in 2024. So where everything is technology. If these people are given an option between working remote or having the option to work flexibly versus being in an office, all other things being equal, they're going to choose, or at least a vast majority of them are going to choose the flexible option.
Yeah.
And what happens on, again, a long enough time horizon is that these people start drifting away from physical companies and
Mhm.
moving toward remote companies. What
Mhm.
happens for those physical companies is then they become less and less competitive over the long haul because they don't have the creatives, and that's
Sure.
a bad thing. And so, um, you know, again, that's why we think that remote is going to be the way and is going to get even stronger. Hybrid is its own beast, and I think it
Mhm.
deserves its own sort of section of discussion. I know we don't have much time, but yeah, I guess the other pillars is that remote work will be a lot more data driven because you
Mhm.
can do that in remote work with the digital office, for example. There's things that your office can do that your physical office can't. Like, your
Mhm.
your digital office can crunch numbers for you. It can run automations. It can talk to your customers. It can help you make sales. It can connect you with your teammates, right? It
Mhm.
can do all sorts of things that a physical office just can't. And so that's going to be a big part of the future of remote work is just a lot more data-driven approach to building a business. Um,
Mhm.
and then the other piece is just different types of technological access. So
Mhm.
today, I don't think the world is ready for the Vision Pro workplace by any means, by
Mhm.
any stretch of the
Not yet.
imagination. Wearing 2 pounds on your head for more than 20 minutes is going to be really harmful to most
Mhm.
people. I don't know if there's long-term issues. I don't think anybody has that data or the medical studies haven't been done on that yet. But from an intuitive perspective, I don't think that's going to work, or a psychological perspective, that's not going to work. So basically what we need to do from a remote work perspective is to say, okay, well, how good can we make the software on existing devices that help to
Mhm.
bond teams, help to connect teams, because that's going to be better for them, and it's going to be better for the bottom line, and it's going to be better for the environment, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But how do we keep our eyes to the future and make sure that these remote work tools are compatible with the future technologies? We do
Mhm.
things in a particularly um, compatible way, I'll say, under the
Oh.
hood, that make us compatible with a lot of these 3D devices right off the
Mhm.
bat. but we can get into that if we have time.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Vish. This was very helpful, and I really appreciate you sharing your vision. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you to the audience for checking out another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps others discover the show, and it helps us improve the show.